What's up, guys? This has been long overdue. If you don't know who I am, my name is Robin Wesley. I am the founder of HEATE, and I actually started all of this back in 2017 together with my cousin, Chris Jaden. Does this mean Ryan is not HEATE? That's right. Ryan is not HEATE. In fact, I'm not HEATE either. HEATE is simply the brand that we are all representing. We're a team of music producers all making an effort to help other producers pursue a full-time music career. Now, up till recently, we've always had Ryan on this channel, with and without the mustache, but recently Troy started doing more videos, which people seem to like a lot.
One of the faces is Troy, who I personally think is really charismatic on camera.
And behind the scenes, we also have more people. We have Rutger, who is our amazing community manager. We got Nathan, also known as Excalibur Zero, who's our sync specialist. And right here at our headquarters in the Netherlands, we got Mike, who's my personal assistant, and he does a lot of work for our agency clients as well. And we got a few other people to help out with running the business too. Now, in my first official video on the HEATE channel, I would like to take you behind the scenes to show you what it is that we actually do at HEATE and how I've been able to build this company from the ground up next to running my own business, selling beats online. So just a little backstory, in 2012, I decided to pursue a career in music. After teaching myself how to play the piano, playing in bands, I started experimenting with making beats and uploading them to a site called SoundClick. Now, it took me almost a year until I actually sold my first beat, but soon after, things started to move fast. I quit my job in 2016, and between 2017 and 2022, I made probably over $500,000 selling beats online, working with artists, getting my music placed in TV shows, and mixing hundreds of songs for my clients. Now, since this video is about HEATE, I skipped a few parts to save the rest of my story for a later video. But if you want to know more about my story, make sure to subscribe to the channel. I got a ton of videos coming up soon, or follow me on Instagram at It's Robin Wesley. So let's jump in. So in 2017, I wanted to provide more value to the artists that were buying my beats. You see, I had heard hundreds of songs to my beats, but most of them, honestly, they kind of sucked. So I decided to pitch the idea of an online course to help my customers properly record and mix their own songs. This course was actually named Zero to Radio Ready. So I did everything I learned from the marketing playbooks. I wrote out the idea, I surveyed my audience, and even asked them to pre-order the course. During pre-order, 20 people signed up, which was great. But now I actually had to make the course. So my cousin Chris, he built the site and we brainstormed on a brand name that would become Urban Masterclass. So I spent 3 months making videos about recording, mixing, vocal production, all of that stuff. And when it was finally done, we sent it out to those who pre-ordered. They loved it, but they were pretty much the only ones that loved it. So long story short, the whole course flopped. Why? Well, let's just say I was trying to fix a problem that most people didn't even know that they had. They actually loved their own songs. They were like proud of the things that they were doing, and they literally like couldn't tell the difference between a Beyonce record and their own songs. So I wasn't offering a solution to their problems. I was actually selling the solution to my problems. I was the one that didn't like the songs, not them. And that was a big mistake. So I went back to focusing on selling beats. No problem, lessons learned. Now, during my entire career, I've always been a writer. I used to write songs, but I also liked writing as a part of my learning process. And this came in handy when doing SEO marketing for my website. I wrote a ton of articles, and Google was pretty much one of my biggest traffic sources for selling beats, especially in the early days. And often I also journaled about my personal experiences. So when I heard that my girlfriend was pregnant, I decided to write my story of how I was able to make a full-time living off of music, because I thought it could be a great, hopefully inspiring story to share with my son one day. Now, after 3 months of writing, I let Chris read it, and he was like, "This is really good, you should put this on Urban Masterclass." At first I was like, nah, Urban Masterclass, that's for artists. That was like an extension to my beat selling business. But he convinced me to do it anyway. So I removed some of my personal details and I dropped probably the longest guide ever written on the topic of selling beats. And we called it The Definitive Guide to Selling Beats Online. Now what happened next was something that we didn't really expect. It started to pick up like crazy. Like hundreds of people commented on the article, and these were all people looking to sell beats online, but they didn't really know where to get started. But now, after months of recording videos for a course that failed, people were actually asking us for more resources on selling beats. Now, honestly, I was done with courses after the whole Zero to Radio Ready flop, so we decided to drive all of the traffic to a Facebook group that was called The Art of Selling Beats. Now, we were able to help a lot of people out, but the requests for a course, a masterclass, or even consulting, it just kept coming. So eventually we decided to do it. So I broke down my entire process of selling beats and I put all that down in what later became known as the Constant Conversion Strategy, CCS. It officially launched under Urban Masterclass back in 2019. Now within the next 2 years of doing very little marketing for it, a really good amount of producers actually took the course, which was great. However, during this time, it was me, Chris, Mike, Berlino, and the occasional intern helping out manage to workload on both Urban Masterclass and my own beat selling business. Selling beats was pretty much my main activity, and Urban Masterclass was kind of like the side project. The main focus for me was making and uploading beats every week. I thought that was really what I should be focusing on. And I was right, because in 2020, I had one of my best years selling beats with over $140,000 in sales, selling beats and services to my clients. 2021 was even better. We hit almost $200,000 in sales just from my beat selling business. But despite the amazing stats, it was kind of like a challenge. It was like juggling between running my own business, working with artists, and on the other end, helping producers. So this is why I always had a team in place to help me manage the operations. Now, luckily, I was doing pretty well on the selling beats side, so it wasn't really dependent on the course sales. Frankly, a lot of my beats revenue was actually used to fund the whole company Urban Masterclass in the early years. But after about 3 years of selling the CCS course and helping other producers, combined with how I had the operation set up, involving team members and everything, I still wasn't really making any decent profits from the courses. So I felt it was time that we started making more profits on the Urban Masterclass side. So in April 2021, we decided to rebrand Urban Masterclass to HEATE. And we actually hired Ryan to become the face of HEATE. We even acquired his YouTube channel to have a nice starting point, and we thought it would be a great way to introduce the new name HEATE with a face that's not mine. So we rolled out our plans, and in May of 2021, Urban Masterclass officially turned into HEATE. It all started off great, and Ryan perfectly executed on our plans, kicking off another growth cycle for HEATE. But then about 6 months later, I started getting some health issues. It became hard for me to focus, I felt stressed, anxious, and for the first time in my life, I had a panic attack, which felt like a freaking heart attack at the time. Shortly after, I reached a point where I could physically not even work anymore. It felt like I was constantly bouncing between different identities, the creative producer, the engineer, the teacher, the CEO, the musician, all while failing in areas outside of work too. So I was kind of forced to make a decision there, and I actually chose to let go of HEATE. Honestly, it made the most sense at the time. I wanted to get back to music more than anything, and up till that point, I wasn't really making a lot of profits off of it anyway. So I called Brian and I gave him the news, and his instructions were clear. No new updates to the course, no sales campaigns, no new content, only provide support to those who were already in. So we made a deal with Ryan to continue doing support part-time for CCS members while he got a new job at a marketing agency. I spent most of my time outsourcing my work for my beats business and just try to focus on getting better physically and mentally so I could finally get back to making music again. Now, 2 months later, in January 2022, Ryan texted me asking if he could start uploading videos on the HEATE channel again. He absolutely hated his job at the marketing agency and he wanted to get back to making content. He asked permission to upload his videos on the HEATE YouTube channel, and of course I said yes. We bought and we rebranded his channel that he worked hard for to build, and then we shut it down 6 months later. So it was only fair that we would allow him to do that. Now, to our surprise, it actually went great. People loved the content and it became clear to us and our audience that he got a lot better at it. So I checked in with him every now and then, and I remember vividly one time he texted me after another successful video, joking around saying, "I'm trying to revive the business that you're trying to kill." And he was right. Course sales started to pick up again, more producers started joining CCS, but this time I was kind of watching from the sidelines. Ryan was doing most of the work, and we had our then moderators Rutger and Troy handle the new influx of students. The admin work, I had already outsourced that to Mike and Berlino at the office. Now, about a month later, the channel was closing in on 10,000 subs, and a year before, I actually made Ryan a promise that when he hit 10,000 subscribers, we would fly him out to our office in the Netherlands. So I did, and we planned his trip for July that year, and I agreed to start helping him out running HEATE part-time again. Now, in July he came over, and by then I had already gotten back to working full-time. We did a live event, we met up with a few people from our community, and during the week that he was here, we also made some new plans. The first plan was building a sample pack store. The second plan was updating CCS to CCS 2.0. But this time, part of the plan was to hire extra people to help us out. I just gotten back to working full-time again, so I was kind of like still careful with the workload I was taking on. So this is when we asked Rutger, Troy, and a few more freelancers to come join the team officially. So we executed on our plans, first launching the sample pack store. Long story short, it failed miserably. This just wasn't the right move for us. Then we spent months updating CCS to CCS 2.0, and we introduced a new platform. We had different payment options. We added a ton of new content and courses, and that actually went okay, but not great. You know, we made enough to cover the expenses, but the profits were still kind of slim. Plus, I no longer had my beat selling business to fund the operations anymore. Although some money was still coming in, that wasn't sufficient. So that's when I decided to explore other opportunities. You see, in the 6 to 8 months that I was out of business trying to recover, I saw my beat sales go down month after month. But for the first time in my career, I honestly didn't care. I made enough to get by, and my goal was to make music for fun again, not for money. But it did make me realize that selling beats isn't all that sustainable. Granted, I didn't upload a single beat in almost a year, but still, you know, I worked years to build this from the ground up, and I now saw it like all crumbling down month after month. Then one day, I got my quarterly check from BMI. I had a few bigger songs out, plus I had done music for TV shows over the years as well. Now my BMI checks, they weren't all that big. It was just a couple $1,000s a year. Most of this, however, was generated from songs that I got placed in TV shows. Now the funny thing is, I never took it that seriously. For me, these were like one-off projects I did with a guy who hit me up years ago. Sure, I had some connections, but the process of getting my music placed was actually super easy for me. It didn't require uploading them to YouTube, hoping that the algorithm would pick it up. I didn't have to upload them to my beat stores. I didn't even have to send it out to my email list. I literally got like instructions to make a song and got paid for it. And I was still getting paid for it. And then I started looking at what we have been teaching producers so far, and also the things that they struggle with the most. I actually did a recent survey that will show you this again, but I already knew this. You see, what producers struggle with the most is, first of all, building a personal brand and creating that brand awareness for them. But they also struggle with balancing music and learning and spending time on all things not related to music. So when it came to sync licensing, this wasn't really an issue. Like I said, the process was pretty straightforward. You get your brief instructions, you submit your songs, and the people that you work with pretty much do the rest of it. So that's when I started like a discovery phase. I talked to some of my old contacts in sync. I met up with a few people in our community, and then I came across Nathan. I reached out to him for a call at the end of July. So we talked about our careers, life, our kids, what we struggled with. It was a really cool first call. Both of us felt inspired afterwards. Soon after, we made a deal. He was going to do a HEATE course on sync licensing, and he would officially join the HEATE team as our own sync specialist. In return, we'd split the revenue, do the marketing and sales for the course, and he would get access to our team and resources. This was pretty much a win-win for everyone. Our community of producers would be introduced to a new way of monetizing their beats, which actually for some people fit better than the traditional selling beats online. Nathan would get to join a team to help him out and gain access to our resources, and for us, we had a new product to sell to increase our profits. So we spent the rest of 2022 producing the course, mapping out our marketing strategy, and preparing for our launch in March 2023. The course was then named Zero to Sync. Gotta admit, I kind of stole that from the very first course I did. Even though it failed, I always loved the name of it. So on February 24th, we started our pre-campaign, and we introduced Nathan as being part of the HEATE team, and we prepared a ton of content to show producers a new way of monetizing their beats. We also announced a free live masterclass as an introduction to sync licensing. Now, since this was a new topic, we thought it would be hard to convince people to sign up. But actually, it wasn't that hard at all. We had like over 4,500 producers sign up for this free masterclass. We did not expect this. More importantly, we were not prepared for this. The event was actually planned for March 11th, but since we had so many producers sign up, we didn't even have the tech to host an event this big. You know, our software could only host 1,000 people in there, I think, and we didn't want to do it on YouTube because we had to be able to make an offer pitching Zero to Sync at the end. Plus, why would people have to sign up if they could just watch it on YouTube, right? Now, luckily, we had actually rehearsed the entire masterclass a few days before. So just a few days before we went live, we decided to run the rehearsal take instead of doing it live. You know, it was the only way for us that we could host an event this big. Plus, I didn't want to put too much pressure on everyone's shoulders, having to do this all live for this many people. Now, of course, I knew this could blow back on us, but then again, I knew the content in this masterclass would be super valuable anyway. Plus, there was no time for an alternative option for us. So March 11th came, and of course, something went wrong, as it always does with launches. So just 4 hours before the launch, emails weren't firing. We had just a few hours to come up with a fix, so I called everyone to an emergency meeting. It was like a Saturday afternoon. Luckily, we were able to fix it. The masterclass went live, and it was nothing like we had ever experienced before. We had a chat that went crazy from the jump. At the peak, I think we had like 1,500 people in at the same time, but some people couldn't access, the servers got overloaded. We had like a support function, but that broke down the second that people started chatting. Even our own site crashed when we pitched the whole Zero to Sync course. So it was like total chaos for us, but eventually it did become one of the most successful launches that we had ever done. People absolutely loved the course, and so far we've helped a few hundred producers land their first TV placement. Big win for all of us, the community, as well as the HEATE team. We had a pretty successful launch, so I decided to use the profits to fly everyone out this last summer. So Ryan spent a month here, we had Jay Cactus come over, Troy flew over with his girlfriend, and Nathan came for a week and he spent some time with a friend in Germany. We pulled Rutger out of the village. It was just super fun. It was a great way for us to celebrate our wins as a team. Now, just a quick sidetrack to the accidental HEATE agency. You see, alongside CCS, Zero to Sync, and all the other activities that we had going on, Ryan had brought up the idea of providing done-for-you services several times. I never really entertained the idea because doing done-for-you services, it meant becoming like a marketing agency. Now, I happen to know a few people that have their own agencies, and most of them, honestly, they just complain about all the stress that comes with it. Plus, agencies are very hard to scale. And to be fair, like I was still treating HEATE kind of like my side hustle. I guess you have to understand, this is how I saw it for many years when I was just selling beats. So any idea that seemed unscalable to me, I pretty much refused doing. But now I was like, I'm not doing music anyway. I might as well spend my time on HEATE for a few months, see where it leads. So January, we got a chance to do marketing for Chucky Beats' Secret Audio, and Ryan on his own account had already been working with producers like Matthew May and Kavi. Now myself, I've been running Rujay's marketing operations for almost 5 years now. So for the first time, I entertained the idea and Ryan loved it. We got our first 2 clients, Chucky Beats and Jay Cactus, and we started doing pretty much all marketing and sales for them. Now word spread fast, and we started adding more and more clients to our list every month since. Jay Cactus brought in Ocean, Kavi brought in Jacob and Software, we got Ataleni and Rip Speakers, AJ Hall with his drum breaks, then we're doing email marketing for Producer Grind. It all went really fast. So I spent the first months of 2023 reading a ton of books about running an agency and just help set up the whole operations and workflows with Ryan to get a pretty solid system in place that's scalable. Now today, Ryan pretty much handles 80% of the agency work, which is also the reason why he hasn't been showing his face up here more often this past year. So as you can see today, HEATE has like several divisions. We got the Academy with CCS and Zero to Sync. We got the agency working with some of the most influential producers in our space. We got the community on Discord. We got our partnership with Soundy. It's kind of like an extension to our CCS course. And we also have Super Selective, and that's the music library that I'm building together with Nathan to provide more opportunities for producers in sync licensing. Now maybe you know us from our content, maybe from the courses, maybe you had no idea who I was and that I was running this behind the scenes. The point is, I think we made the mistake of not showing more of what it is that we actually do. Now, I completely own this mistake of not being more transparent with you guys, but we plan on changing that from this point on. Now, I know this is not the typical video that we would normally post on this channel, so I would actually love your feedback. Let us know what you want to see from us. Let us know what you're struggling with, what you need help with, and how we can best serve you. Drop it in the comments below. I'll be reading every single one of them. Make sure to like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you in the next video.